good afternoon. In some countries, maybe in good evening also already there is night time. Welcome to this CIRDAP Knowledge Series 60, and we are going to have this webinar with the collaboration of our one of our partner institution, PIDF, based in Fiji. And the topic is Villages to Net Zero, Solar Solutions for Climate Action in Rural Asia and the Pacific. And our today's esteemed speaker is Mr. Ashish Khanna, sir, Director General, International Solar Alliance, ISA. Thank you, sir, for joining with us. Our Honorable Director General of CIRDAP, Dr. P. Chandrasekhara, sir, to commence this webinar. Sir, over to you.
Thank you, Haren. Yeah, good afternoon to everyone. Maybe in Fiji it is good evening. Welcome to CIRDAP PIDF knowledge series webinar. First of all, on behalf of CIRDAP family, I would like to extend a warm welcome to Mr. Ashish Khanna, Director General, International Solar Alliance. Thank you, sir, for your valuable time, and you are addressing this gathering on a very interesting topic. This is a collaborative effort of CIRDAP as well as PIDF. CIRDAP, Center on Integrated Rural Development for Asia and Pacific, is an intergovernmental organization starting from Fiji to Iran and Nepal to Sri Lanka. We work with 15 Asia and Pacific countries for strengthening integrated rural development systems in this region. It is initiated by United Nations, and all countries are represented by honorable rural development ministers in the governing body of CIRDAP. It is 47 years old. Next week we are going to celebrate 47th birthday of CIRDAP. It is also a World Rural Development Day, and it is a recognition of CIRDAP contribution to regional development as recognized by United Nations. Today, we are also partnering with the PIDF, Pacific Islands Development, Island Nations Development Forum. It is a multilateral organization based at Fiji, but covering 14 Pacific Island nations. I'm very happy to see some of the participants from Pacific countries too. Some are present here, but otherwise the entire talk will be recorded, and that will be through put in CIRDAP YouTube channel so that it can reach more people. So today topic is interesting: Villages to Net Zero, Solar Solutions for Climate Action in Rural Asia and Pacific. Before I request the honorable speaker, I will take 2 minutes to introduce the speaker. Mr. Ashish Khanna is presently serving as a Director General of International Solar Alliance, and this is represented by more than 120 countries in the world. It is the initiation of United Nations, one of the visionary activity of United Nations through International Solar Alliance. Mr. Ashish Khanna has over 26 years of experience leading energy sector development in private and public sectors in more than 15 developing countries in South Asia, the Middle East, and North Africa and Saharan Africa. He has unique experience working in the solar sector across the entire value chain, ranging from project conceptualization to resource mobilization, financing, bid process management, and project implementation. And he headed several projects in World Bank, especially West and Central African programs. And he has, dual post-graduation degrees in management and public administration. And Harvard Kennedy School recognized his, contribution and acknowledged appropriately. So with this brief introduction, I would request Mr. Ashish Khanna to take over. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Chandrasekhar. Am I audible?
Yes, very much.
Yes, sir.
Please.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Namaskar, everyone. Good morning to those in the sphere of east to us. Good afternoon for those in and around India, and a very good evening if you are in Fiji. I was very fortunate to meet the Fijian minister just less than a month back in Bali, where Fiji, Solomon Islands, PNG, and us, along with World Bank Group, came together to discuss the Small Island Developing States Forum. I'll be talking about it a lot. I have a presentation in which I will be talking about broadly 3 or 4 things. First, what's happening in the world right now, and where do we see the big trends going towards solar, especially after the West Asia war and the Hormuz crisis. Then, because the topic today is a lot more on villages and how can villages become net zero, I would like to focus a lot more today on what are the big opportunities for jobs and productive use of solarization of agriculture. We will talk about 2 big elements of what this could be. And finally, I will begin by talking about what are the other programs that ISA is doing, which are very integral to solving the problem of villages being net zero in terms of the program. My colleague Swapnil is going to help me on the presentation. So let's begin by understanding that what's unique about Asia and Pacific. And I say that fully cognizant that the countries of Asia and Pacific are very different from each other. We have very large countries, whether they are India and China's, but middle income, medium, very big size countries like Bangladesh, Sri Lanka, Nepal. And then we have smaller countries, especially in the Pacific island countries as well. Barring very few cases, Asia Pacific has the unique experience of actually having led the energy access over last 10 to 15 years. Almost 1 billion people have received energy access since 2010. And actually, that is the reason while the numbers, go back to the previous slide, while the numbers of electricity access are much higher now based on what Asia has achieved. However, while there's a lot on energy access that has been done, the access to clean cooking fuel remains a big challenge. We all realize the health aspects related to indoor air pollution that have been very well documented, and different countries have been trying different elements of clean cooking, but that is one part of the unfinished agenda. The second challenge has been dependency on imported fossil fuels. Some of the larger countries are extensively dependent. Japan 78%, India 50%, China 36%. But some of the countries that have joined today, whether they are Bangladesh, Nepal, and all the Pacific, some of those dependencies, unfortunately, as high as 90% of all fossil fuels used are all imported. That has led to a big problem of disruption of supply. We have all seen the challenges in terms of the supply leading to shortages and different strategies given by governments on managing those supplies, but also the pricing. Our estimates suggest that the world might be spending 75% of the world, most of them in Asia, might be spending almost $1 trillion on increased subsidies. Next slide. Yes. So what you understand that how the solar and storage mirror. Solar along with storage and transmission is the cheapest solution for most energy systems. In a lot of countries, it is now under 7 US cents. In countries such as India, Egypt, and others, it's as low as 3 to 4 US cents, including 4 hours of storage. And if you look at that, the world is spending $1 to $2 trillion additional on oil and gas expenditure, that if the world, which is spending $2 trillion today, if that money were to be moved to solar and energy, the long-term dependence can be substantially reduced. We believe the big opportunity for most Asia Pacific countries is on putting policies and an investment process for moving away from fossil fuel systems that will reduce the dependence. As I talked to you about, the total additional cost of net zero is about $3.5 trillion. The world is already doing 2 trillion. So if the additional fossil fuel system cost could have been shifted to clean energy systems, the world would be on the path of moving towards net zero. The big question, unfortunately, on clean energy is a very high upfront cost. So that requires a lot of financing, but it creates assets that have no operational cost in the future. It does create a lot of jobs as well. Our studies show that clean energy systems can generate as much as 7 million jobs in developing countries. The technologies have become much more efficient and cheaper. I spoke about the price. The price of solar and storage in some of the countries is around 7 US cents. In some larger countries is less than 4 US cents. But also the electric mobility heat pumps are at least 2 to 3 times more efficient at delivering useful energy. Next slide. Now, staying on the big picture, if the countries that are really reeling from the problem of lack of availability of gas, LPG, oil, and of course a much higher cost, were to decide to move to alternative source, all other sources, whether there are electricity interconnections, wind, nuclear, coal plants, would take at least 3 to 5 years at the minimum. The fastest way in next 6 months to a year of moving the world away from much more expensive fossil fuels is either to have a huge rooftop or balcony solar program, but also a lot of solarization of agriculture. That is something which is going to be the mainstay of my discussion today. Now, what is happening in the world is very clear. It took 25 years to do the first 1,000 gigawatt of solar. Next 1,000 gigawatt happened only in last 2 years. And we believe this pace is only going to go up. Almost 500 gigawatt of solar annually is increasing to almost 600, 700 gigawatts. As you see from the graph on the right, bulk of it is solar PV, both on the utility scale, but increasingly on decentralized renewable energy, which is in the form of solarization of agriculture that I will discuss today. So this is indeed the future, both in terms of ease, lower cost, and efficiency that is leading to absorption of solar. Now, this is on the big picture. Now, let's get into the aspects. Let me, whilst Swapnil is putting the presentation, tell you a little bit about International Solar Alliance. International Solar Alliance was conceptualized in Paris COP in 2015 as the first developing world Global South-led multilateral institution. As the Honorable DG Dr. Chandrasekhar mentioned, it's in the form of a UN-style organization where each country becomes a member by ratification through their parliaments. And now, it was announced in 2015, the first assembly happened in 2018, and today it has 128 countries as members. So it is a very proud aspect of the Global South that now an alternate multilateral institution exists, headquartered in Global South, that has 128 countries. The president and co-president are India and France, and it has 4 regions, Asia and Pacific, that we are talking today, Latin America, Caribbean, Africa, Europe, and other regions. Every year, there are 2 countries, every 2 years, who become vice presidents. The vice presidents for Asia and Pacific are Australia and Sri Lanka currently. Next slide. Now, let's get into the meat of today's discussion on what are the real opportunities for creating net zero in rural areas. Let me explain what this graph is saying. Almost 2 billion people in Asia Pacific live in rural areas. And this is the real economic opportunity in addition to a net zero transition opportunity. The y-axis gives you the impact on rural lives on livelihoods, which means if you go up, that has very high impact on lives and livelihoods. The x-axis is on contribution to net zero. So if something is on the high on both x and y, that would mean that it is very high impact on rural lives and livelihoods, and it also contributes to net zero. The color of the dot tells you if it's green, that means the technology is already proven and bankable, where immense work is happening in some countries. If it's yellow, that it is a relatively new technology, and some places it's really scaling up big time, but there is a scope. So what we are saying is, if you look at the top rightmost corner, solar irrigation pumps are now a proven and bankable technology, whereas solar pump cost 1/3 the cost of a diesel pump today. And it is having a life of almost 15 to 20 years, contributes enormously to the lives of the people. Similarly, on the mini grids, it's now a proven market. Agri-PV that we will talk today is agriculture put or photovoltaic plants put above agriculture crops, and I will be discussing what are the different techniques. Then clean cooking is, of course, has huge impact on net zero. And similarly on cold storage and value chain has a huge impact, has a huge contribution to net zero. The impact on lives and livelihoods is slightly relatively low. Solar home lighting and appliances are there everywhere. They're relatively low impact because it's a starting tier 1 level of electrification, and contribution to net zero is also low. There are now solarization of drinking water and purification and solarization of health and school that have very high impacts on rural lives and livelihoods. Of course, the diesel gensets that are there as a backup supply in whichever village can afford without having 24/7 power is a technology on solar that is now very well proven. On two-wheelers and three-wheelers, which are very essential for rural e-mobility, there is a big push on having solar as a big solution for battery swapping and two and three-wheelers. So as you see here, opportunities are there everywhere. I will be talking a lot more on two rightmost corner technologies today, which are solar irrigation pumps and agriculture PV as the game-changing solutions for Asia Pacific for net zero. Next slide. Now, this also tells that how does solar, both in terms of solar pump, solar cold storage, and agri-PV, benefit the farmers, the government, and larger public benefits to the world. Now, a solar pump gives a complete control to the farmer on the access to water, because most places in Asia have sunshine for almost 300 days. And therefore, once the finance part is taken care of, it gives a huge access to surface irrigation water, essential for livelihoods of farmers. Of course, in most places, government subsidizes agriculture or the diesel pumps, and that leads to a huge reduction in the subsidy being given by government-provided electricity connection, and of course, the diesel imports. Similarly, on cold storage, as it's well documented, our farmers who are really providing food security, unfortunately, are today losing 30 to 40% of post-harvest losses because of lack of supply chain and cold storage. So that's a big gain to the farmer. Obviously, that's a gain for the government as well. in addition to not having coal or diesel being used for the cold storage, and the world benefits from reduction. And agri-PV that we will talk about today adds income security and energy security to food security. Because as you will see in agri-PV, if you have a land-constrained country with less land available to put a lot of solar in villages, your existing farmland today in the new technology can have agri-PV while the crop grows without reducing the yield, providing additional income to the farmers while the government gets and the economy gets a lot of additional source of electricity. Next slide. Now, let's briefly share where it has happened in a big way. We will take you through the example of India. India has launched a scheme in 2019 for giving a subsidy of up to 60% for solar pump. And now this figure says 2.5, it's already crossed 2.7 million solar pumps have been installed, where the remaining 40% is arranged through a bank loan with 30% by bank loan and 10% as cash by the farmer. There are three ways by which this scheme operates in India. The first is that if there are a group of farmers who have an agriculture pump connected, you can have a solar plant on a barren or underutilized farmer land, and you can connect a small LV lines to actually connect those farmers to this solar plant. Second, if you have a diesel pump, you can actually replace it with a standalone solar agriculture pump. And third, if you actually have a grid-connected agriculture supply today, there are lots of solar plants that can come locally at a decentralized level on which you can connect. I can give you the details, but the main point is India has, after the success of 2.7 million solar pumps, wishes to do 5 million more pumps over the next 4 years. Now let me give you an example of a state. The state of Maharashtra has benefited in a big way because, as a lot of island countries know, the cost of power being supplied to the consumer is very high. Unfortunately, in some of the island countries, I know it's as high as 30 US cents because of diesel. In case of Maharashtra, it was around 10 US cents after transmission and distribution. When a lot of small pieces of land were identified next to the agriculture substation, mostly at the 11 kV side, then almost 10,000 such parcels of land, some of them government, some of them private, that were given a lease rent to allow farmer to actually give it, were bid out for a tariff. And the tariff for almost 9,000 megawatt of these 10,000 blocks came to as low average of US 3.5 cents per unit. So the state of Maharashtra, which was paying 10 cents to supply a unit of electricity to the farmer for his pump, was able to provide the same at US 3.5 cents. The power that was sometimes given in the night to manage the load curves was now available in the day. And therefore, the farmer is able to do the drip irrigation. He has control over his water and therefore the agriculture supply chains. The government this year has saved $1 billion in terms of power purchase cost, and that is being transferred to industrial tariffs so that industrialization and job creation can happen. So as you can see, it is a win-win for farmer who has a short supply in the day. It is a win for government, which saves $1 billion. And of course, for the people in large, because with industrial tariff coming down, there's industrialization and jobs happening. Next slide. Now, how should you, if you are an Asia Pacific country, go about it? And the next 2 or 3 slides are the ones that I would like your request to focus the most on as a main takeaways from my presentation. There are 3 ways you can create a financing scheme for agriculture and rural households. The first which is largely an Indian example, is a direct lending program, which means government provides a part subsidy and the rest is either paid off by the consumer directly, or there is a bank that actually finances it. This is something that we have been talking in some of the African countries context, which you see here. The second is a supplier anchored program, which means that you talk to some of the large scale manufacturers, and a lot of them will have to assemble or create local manufacturing within your countries, and you provide some bit of subsidy and a financing scheme through the suppliers, which means that suppliers who are like big pump manufacturers would actually be supplying to the farmers either at a subsidized cost or energy as a pay principle. In fact, we have financed 2-3 startups in Cambodia and Laos, and I think one in Fiji too, who were providing solar pumps as a way of energy you pay as you use, which means if you're using certain energy for your pump, you pay only to the amount of time you actually pay for it, whereas the pump was owned by a supplier. So it was almost like a community pump where the private sector sets this pump and almost sells water or few hours of operation on pay-as-you-go basis. And the third model is a farmer cooperative. As we believe in most countries, there is a very strong move for having farmer cooperatives. Now there, it is possible rather than individual farmers to channel the financing through cooperatives. Now that is completely a function of what crop type. We believe that certain commercial crops are much more amenable to having a farmer cooperative-led program, like cotton or coffee come to my mind straight away. And of course, the availability of these farmer cooperatives. As you can see, each country can decide whether they want to do a direct lending program, a supplier anchored program, or a farmer cooperative-led program. The other dimension that I will also mention is that how does the financier supply? The loans are often a little bit of a problem in most countries. I know at least 4 or 5 countries where unfortunately the banks ask for a collateral beyond the solar pump. And this is one of the binding constraints of starting a big solar agriculture program, even though it makes so much of economic sense for those countries. And we are discussing in at least 5 or 6 countries where the banking system, whether a cooperative bank or a commercial bank, should be willing to take the pump as a collateral itself. And that, I think, will allow a lot of unfreezing of financing. Next slide. Now, this is a very complicated slide. I don't want you to feel very data heavy, but let me try and explain to in a very simple way. You can either replace diesel, and this is more important if you are in the government. If you're in the Ministry of Energy or a regulator, what are your 2 or 3 big parameters? What kind of a policy you need to give? You can either prioritize replacement of diesel pumps, or you can prioritize solar pumps for expanding irrigation, which is or you can do mixed use pumping. And your beneficiary can either be very poor and marginal farmers. As we all know, almost 60% of all farmers in Asia Pacific and most countries are resource poor farmers. Then you can also have middle income, which is resource limited and resource rich farmers, and cooperatives. So your government has to decide how much subsidies should be given. We believe subsidies should be only given to the poor and marginal farmers. And if you are replacing a diesel pump, there is a lot of issues in countries that what you should do about the existing diesel pump, otherwise it gets back into the system. So there has to be a diesel pump scrappage incentive system. Now the banks may like to be given an incentive to avoid any repayment guarantee loss. and therefore there's a partial credit of first loss guarantee that is needed. Some bit of a fuel saving schemes, supply linkage, loan to own the solar pump, lease to own the solar pump, and some bit of an insurance. So these are a range of policy instruments that are available if you are in the ministry of any Asia Pacific country, depending on whether you are doing a diesel pump replacement, whether you are going for new irrigation, mixed use pumping, and whether the intended user is a poor farmer, a rich farmer, or a cooperative. This is just a framework we have developed where International Solar Alliance is helping all the countries. Next slide. Now, this is an ecosystem approach. It may seem a little heavy, but let me tell you, what would a good system look like? One very important issue of a solar pump program is quality. A farmer doesn't want to be the only one, because if the solar pump does not work and he has to sow it's almost like a need that cannot be compromised. So he needs vendors that have good quality. He needs repair and O&M obligation that are absolutely important for them. It wants that suppose government is giving a subsidy, it should come on time. In some countries, there has been a big problem that there have been a lot of delays in release of the subsidy, and that often requires some bit of digital registry. In some countries, there is a view that solar pump will lead to additional extraction of groundwater, and therefore the groundwater and aquifers will deplete much faster. We believe there are easy technology fixes for doing it. And as I mentioned, it is very important to restrict the subsidy levels to the poor and marginal farmers. So this is, as I mentioned, a toolkit that we have developed for any government or financial institution to do a very large solar pump program, because we believe solar pumps have become extremely cheap, extremely reliable, but their uptake is limited beyond India, largely because of the absence of these policy and financing infrastructure in place. Next slide. Now, let me tell you about the other two things that I want to talk about for villages. And I'm especially focusing on productive use because I believe the #1 priority for villages should be on productive use and jobs. And therefore, how does productivity happen in agriculture is most important. One part is agri-PV. As you know, agri-PV I mentioned is at a slightly elevated height. Often the height is almost 3.5 meters above the level to allow tractors and other equipment to move in the agriculture as well. It helps. Why does it help? There are a lot of studies on what happens on different cropping patterns in different climate zones on productivity of the crops. There is a huge potential for it. I'll have a slide that will talk about the framework for it. Just to tell you that 1% of India's agriculture land can unlock 1,000 to 1,300 gigawatt potential of it. The cost is slightly higher than, of course, distributed renewable energy because of the height of the civil structure and sometimes. But the income potential is huge. Imagine in land-constrained countries, if the farmer can become the source of both the food security and energy security, giving a lot of additional income beyond agriculture produce, because the agriculture PV will feed back to the distribution grid. On cold storage, we have analyzed in about 10 countries, we did pilots of cold storage. The income of farmers went up by 15 to 20%. And that is because the produce, often fruits, vegetables, the shelf life is extremely important. As I mentioned, almost 30% loss is happening. It can go by up to a couple of weeks. And as I'm giving some data that we actually came, that the income was increased by almost 50%, and almost 84% users improved price realization with the use of cold storage. Unfortunately, the solar application of cold storage, because the grid-based power is very difficult to go where cold storage happens, is still not very prevalent. And we have just done pilots, and this we believe is also a big scope for expansion. Next slide. I'll tell you a little bit about agri PV, because this is something we believe, and I personally am very, very passionate about this, because in next 5 to 10 years, this can be the most transformative potential for both farmer incomes, but also for energy, especially as I see in most countries, land is a binding constraint. So what we are doing is we have looked at 5 different types of zones: arid, semi-arid, tropical, temperate, and continental, and what kind of crops are most suitable in those. Like our view is showing that fruits, gram, soybean, leafy greens, turmeric, mushrooms, apples, all of them have a very high impact, or in terms of limited yield, reduction in yield. Some of them actually give higher agriculture yield with partial shades, and of course a huge amount of augmented income for the farmers for agri PV. As I mentioned, what are the key issues? If you are again in the government, the policy needs to talk about elevation. And there are different kind of technologies. One is pure elevated, where the canopy reduces the soil temperature and evaporation. Sometimes the the solar panel can be put vertical as well. Sometimes it is polyhouse, which is more as a shade with a little bit of a open, allowing sun to go through and parts of it. So these are different kind of technologies that are available. What is needed as 3-4 key parameters is, can the agriculture land classification allow for agri PV to be used? This is a policy question. In some countries, agriculture income, agriculture use of land is very different. That needs policy clarity. Second policy is to allow certain heights that allow standardization, distance between, so that the crops can actually be done, and some bit of feed-in tariffs that would be important. Next slide. Now I will end, this is my last slide, that I gave you a sense of the agriculture potential in villages. If you have done the energy access, how can solar pumps and agri PV be the game changers? But these are some of our platforms that are available for all the 6 countries. I will like to talk about especially 2 platforms here. One is a SIDS platform. What do we do in the SIDS platform? A lot of smaller countries do not have scale of a project to attract large-scale private sector interest. So we have got 5 Pacific islands, 9 Caribbean islands, and 4 Asia and Africa islands to come together on a SIDS platform and do combined bidding so that you learn from each other. Mauritius has just put a 220 megawatt storage and solar tender, and that's something that we are discussing with Fiji and PNG as a role model as well. The second element that's very important for all countries, including Asia Pacific, how do you build your own capability and your own institutions to design the policies and to implement them? We have set up 17 centers of excellence in countries, including Fiji, PNG, Kiribati, we are Sri Lanka, Bhutan, Bangladesh, and all of them are local centers of excellence in which we give ability to train people on managing solar pumps, rooftop solar that are very important for village areas, create jobs, but also a lot of innovation and startups among the rural youth. So those are 2 additional platforms I like to highlight. I gave a lot of information, but I'll be very happy to actually take questions on any questions that you may have and others. And at this point of time, thank you very much.
Thank you so much, sir, for giving us so much interesting and elaborative presentation. Now, before the concluding remark from our DG CIRDAP, now we are going to have this interactive discussion session. So anyone, if you have any questions or remarks, you can just raise your hand, or you can put in the chat box also. So, okay.
So very exciting topic. I
Yes,
cannot wait till my concluding remarks. I will pose before Ashish Khanna. Yeah,
okay.
even 1% can generate so much of energy which can take care of the other 99% and also generate additional income to the farmers with the same piece of land without additional labor. So, do we have any government programs to promote this scheme, Agri-PV?
Yeah. So, Dr. Chandrasekhar, today there are pilots happening. I was in Germany 2 weeks back, and Germany has done 750 megawatts of agri-PV bidding. The actual projects are only about 50, 60 megawatts. India has done some pilots. As I said, the key question among the government circles is that they don't want this to be a mechanism where large-scale industrialists take agriculture land and put agri-PV and the food security goes down. So this is a concern that governments are weighing before they're going big on agri-PV. Number two, how will the farmer get a pie of the income? Because normally, because farmers do not understand solar PV, it is most likely that they will ask private sector to set up the agri-PV on their farmland. And therefore, the policy should be very clear that a certain percentage of the income and the profits are distributed. So those mechanisms are being worked out along with some support from the government on buying down the cost of the project. So this is something that India is thinking very big. India's program on solar pumps, PM Kusum, phase 2 is likely to have an agri-PV component as well. I believe for all the island countries, this is extremely important. Land is the scarce commodity in all island countries. Bangladesh, for example, Nepal. So in all hill places and very land constrained countries, agri-PV policy and pilots are very important.
Yeah, it is very interesting to know that even agri-PV is possible in crops like citrus and apple. And you can see the uh, topography of that particular, land where the agriculture is cultivated and the nature of the crop. See, one thing, what I feel here is the agri-PV impact on the production and productivity of each crop in different agroclimatic zones. Is it confirmed by agriculture research and development organizations?
Yes. So the initial pilots are showing that as far as the citrus fruits, vegetables, spices are concerned, the actual productivity is slightly higher. On some of the other crops, as I mentioned, it needs to be tested. Because remember, it is also a function of crop arid zone, whether you're temperate zone, whether you are arid, semi-arid, temperate. And of course, the various parameters of distance and height and others. So there are multiple variables, and that's why I feel a lot more pilots are needed before going big.
Happy to learn about that because the moment any intervention contribute to production and productivity of a particular crop, that becomes part and parcel of package of practices which is recommended by government extension functionaries to the farmers.
Correct.
So and it also a part of diversification of diversification of agriculture production activity. So if this is treated as a technology which impacts the production and productivity, whether still that income issue comes into picture is I think it is an advantage of farmers.
Correct.
We have one comment in the chat box. It's from one of our experts, Mr. Rusho Kobir. So he just made one comment. Thanks for highlighting potential of solar. However, scarcity of land is an issue. Research on efficiency level of solar to energy conversion is high. priority?
Absolutely. So there are two parts to this question. One is what's happening to the efficiency level. So efficiency levels, as some of you who are tracking solar know, the panel has gone from a 350 watt to now almost 700 watts. So almost doubled efficiency just in the last few years. But even then, land is a constraint. I worked in Bangladesh for a long time, so I know, I think Rusha is probably from Bangladesh, is my assumption. But in general, so for all land constrained countries, solar rooftop and agri PV are a great form of a solution. They don't need additional land. They require the same land used optimally.
Yeah, no, actually,
Yeah.
public transport is one, avenue. Is there any possibility? So, for example, the rooftop of the bus and the trains, because they always, move in open areas. And the another opportunity is the deserts, which receives, the sunshine for majority of the time in a year. Is there any possibility?
Yes. So, there are multiple elements to your question. The first part is, and this is my strong view, that the world has developed a lot of money and solution for a electric mobile car. But the real need in developing countries is e-mobility of two-wheelers, three-wheelers, and public transport like buses and trains. So first of all, we are moving a lot more on what will it take for all two-wheelers, three-wheelers, and rickshaws to actually completely be solar powered and electric powered. Because this is the biggest opportunity in developing country more than anything else. And then on your point, I think the electric buses are becoming more and more viable. It is definitely possible to put a solar rooftop not only on the panel on the top of the trains. There are one or two tracks on which even on the track itself, the solar path is coming as well. That's also a technology that is evolving.
Okay, one of our partner institution of CIRDAP, SARC Agriculture Center, Dr. Sikandar Khan Tanveer. Sir, you have put one big statement in the chat box. Would you like to ask directly the questions to our honorable speaker? Sir, you can unmute yourself.
Yes,
Yes.
Madam Huran, thank you very much. Wonderful presentation. I was interested in this kind of presentation because solar system are getting popularity in this region due to prices of electricity. Great presentation. But I have one suggestion that in some areas, farmers misuse the water. They think water is free. I have seen many people, they are misusing the water. I will suggest that we are going to promote this technology. This is okay, but we should also tell them this, that this water is not free, because when over pumping of water it will result in it will down further the water level. And in addition to it, poor quality water will pump out. It will be bad for the soil health and the production future. So I want to say that we should also teach the farmers that they should use the water properly. Don't misuse this water, and should promote those crops which use less water, especially in the dry areas. And we should promote along with the drip irrigation systems. This is my suggestion to Dr. Ashish Khanna Saab. Thank you.
Absolutely. You are spot on, Dr. Khan. The challenge, unfortunately, is, as you know, this is a very integrated, different parts of having investments on drip irrigation, the farmer being made to go beyond subsistence crops to other crops. So we are all cognizant of that. But even within those, we feel there is a possibility of managing water more efficiently through solar pumps. So the solar pumps does not mean that the other things need not happen. There are definitely drip irrigation, crop diversification are very important elements. But compared to the cost of a diesel pump or a grid-based 10 rupee supply, it is very important to optimize that cost through through solar powered pumps. That I think is the main point we are saying.
Thank you, Dr. Sikandar Khan, sir. Actually, we are very at the end of our webinar, but still we can take one last question or any remark to our honorable speaker or towards CIRDAP before concluding remark by our DG CIRDAP, sir.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, you can ask, sir. We can hear you.
Yes, thank you. This is Monir. I am from Bangladesh Sustainable and Renewable Energy Association. I'm the secretary of this association. We are working also in agricultural sector, especially irrigation. There are some members. They are working on irrigation system, solar power irrigation system. The fact in Bangladesh that we are facing, I'm just sharing some, in short, some experience that we are facing to improve, to develop the irrigation system in Bangladesh. Dr. Ashish Khanna, sir, I know you, that you are working closely. If you have any suggestions to us, that we are representing this sector and we are working closely with the government. The first problem is that you know that the component of the solar panel, and solar equipment, there are a heavy duty in Bangladesh. That's why Dr. Ashish Khanna sir said that there is a huge investment, initial investment. The fact is the farmer cannot bear the initial investment to set up a solar irrigation system. And the second one is financing unavailability. I don't know how India can manage it. They have some success stories, but we are still struggling this sector to be. You know that in Bangladesh, we have on and around 16 to 17,000 diesel operated solar irrigation pumps. We can replace it. We have the opportunity. We can generate some electricity from this sector. We can support also by net metering to the grid system. But the problem is initial costing and the financing unavailability. The banks are not. They are totally absent of agricultural financing. Banks are not aware. They are not willing to pay the small and soft loan to the farmers. So my question that how your experience to how can we manage it, or how can we convince with the commercial banks to give them financing to the agricultural, and if we have an opportunity to work with us with BSREA to share some experience or some to give us some guidance how we can manage our political government or some policymakers to involve them to make the concentration about this sector. Thank you.
Thank you, Munir. I think you have raised a very important point, which I also highlighted. Two parts I will say. First of all, I'll be very happy for ISA to work with you and government of Bangladesh, who are a member country for ISA, to look at this very important issue for Bangladesh. My quick reaction is the financial institution will need some policy guidance. There's no doubt about it. Maybe with some interest subsidy as well. The second part is you have to work on investment committee of financial institutions who feel that this is going to be a problem in loan. And sometimes a little bit of a first loss facility and others that, okay, do 50,000 pumps. If you have a loss on first 5,000, somebody else will take care of it. That will help them not ask for a lot of additional collateral and other things. My last message to Bangladesh is, I think Bangladesh is a prime country for agri-PV. And because you're a land constrained country, think about some pilots on agri PV that you do today, so that tomorrow you can do a much larger agri PV program. We'll be very happy to discuss that.
Yes, and another information I want to share with you that we are working also with the help of GIZ for agri-PV. But the fact is that there are most of the land is the three crops agricultural land. So in considering the agri-PV, there is also some constant that all the crops are not suitable for the under the roof. So we are working on it. We have a national team on agri-PV research and agricultural. There are many universities, agricultural universities with us. We are working on it. Thank you, sir.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Mr. Munir. So now we are going to conclude our webinar. So I'm inviting our Honorable Director General of CIRDAP, Dr. P. Chandrasekhara, sir.
Yes, Dr. Chandrasekhara. This is Vice Kabir. I'm really excited. I'm really excited to see you and the speaker, Dr. Ashish, who spoke on Asian Pacific. And I could really appreciate him because of his deep understanding of the South Asian context. As he rightly said, the land scarcity and others. Dr. Chandrasekhara, I really appreciate that you make CIRDAP again a visible and vibrant organization by bringing this kind of issues for not only South Asia, but Asia and Pacific. So that's what I want to say. Thank you, speaker. Thank you, CIRDAP. Thank you, all the participants who took the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you. Now, DG sir, you can make your concluding remarks, sir, for this very important webinar, sir.
Yeah, thank you, Vice Kabir. Dr. Vice Kabir is former head of Bangladesh Agriculture Research Council. Yeah, first of all, my thanks to Mr. Ashish Khanna. You gave your time and shared a lot of very useful information. It is a trigger, actually. It makes every one of us to think differently with respect to solar energy. Otherwise, traditionally we know certain schemes and how they are implemented, not implemented, but we stop there. But it gives a different direction. There are participants from several countries. I'm sure that this information on solar energy, efficient utilization, profitable utilization, probably it will open many avenues. Thank you very much. In fact, in CIRDAP, we were just trying to think on two things. Probably we will take your help. Everything starts with a home. What is the cost of establishing a solar smart home? For a home, we need illumination, we need storage, we need heater, we need for cooking and many other activities. A family of 5 to 6 people, for establishing a solar smart home, what kind of equipments are required, how much we have to invest for maintenance, and how much profit loss, whatever it is, that economics we wanted to understand. That is number one. Number two, village is the unit of implementation. In a village having 150 to 200 families, there are some common infrastructure which are required. Number one, again, for village illumination, backup, support system, storage facility, drying, if any processing activities are there, whether PV can support all these activities, what kind of model is suitable for a standard village having a population of 150 to 200 farmers. These two things we wanted to understand so that that is more appealing. As an individual, I want to go for solarization at my home, and as an administrator, if I want to implement, solarization in a particular village. So with this, again, I would like to thank you and all the participants. And for other participants who are not part of this discussion, this entire conversation will be in CIRDAP YouTube channel. Thank you very much. Namaskar.
Thank you everyone for the opportunity to share. Really appreciate it.